Hello, friends. So we're back with another chapter in the book, A Necessary Chaos. And this is chapter 7. The name of this chapter is Time. And you'll find this reference in the video, The Vision, at timestamp 6 minutes and 39 seconds. So let's get started. You may be wondering why that mathematical formula is displayed on the previous page, or where it came from, or what it has to do with time, and those would all be very good questions to ask. In the next several pages, I'm going to answer those questions for you in explicit detail as it was answered to me through the vision that I received. Some of you may find the answers and explanations to be rudimentary, especially if you have a scientific or mathematical background. But then again, you may not. I can't explain why it was shown to me in these terms or through these series of sequences. Other than divine consciousness within knew this was the best way for me to comprehend it and then be able to translate it to you exactly as it was shown to me and through the understanding that I received. However, I'm a firm believer in the work is never finished. There is always more to learn, more to understand, and more expansion to be experienced. Perhaps what is revealed will be taken even further to unlock more doors into the unknown and expand our minds to degrees thought not possible before. Perhaps it will satisfy us with answers to questions that we didn't have prior to this moment. Nevertheless, whatever transpires from this knowledge that was given to me, one thing I am certain of. It will reach the minds that it needs to reach, and it will serve the purpose it came to serve for the greater good of humanity. Everything that comes from divine consciousness serves a purpose for the greater good of all, no matter what it is, no matter what it looks like, no matter if we initially understand it or not. Everything from divine consciousness is a gift that holds many facets to be discovered and many layers to be unraveled, leading us into higher and higher states of awareness for the purpose of our evolution. So, let's unwrap this gift. Time is a concept that was invented. It was not discovered. We can't know for certain all the reasons why it was invented, but we can assume it was to create organization and understanding of the seasons, of the planets and stars, of the open and endless space that surrounds us that was not defined by anything substantial. I would imagine it gave us a feeling of stability that we probably hadn't known before. It set clear boundaries through divided fragments that outlined segments that could be clearly defined and experienced. You could almost say it created form and structure where there wasn't any. But as time progressed, we became slaves of our own creation. Although I'm sure it didn't start out this way, it eventually turned into a rigid system of numbers that characterized our very lives, our existence, and our exit from it. It created our own demise while still breathing. It marked a beginning and an ending. The beginning of a day, the ending of a day. The beginning of a week, month, year, and the ending of it. The beginning of a life and the ending of a life. Again, it created structure to define things that were not previously defined. Of course, this is how progress naturally occurs for humans, because human minds have an internal need for structure, even if it's in its most minuscule form. According to human minds, if it can't be backed by some sort of structural understanding, then it doesn't exist. But this is not how evolution occurs. In evolution, there is no beginning and no ending. In energy, there is no beginning and no ending. In our true soul essence, there is no beginning and no ending. In divine consciousness, there is no beginning and there is no ending. Now, I know that I'm crossing that thick, dense line between science and spirituality with the words that I'm mixing. But let me clarify this truth right now. Science and spirituality are two sides of the exact same coin, and it won't be long before that is thoroughly understood on a very deep level by all. It is only a matter of time, and time being in quotation marks. But before we go into the deeper depths of what was shown to me regarding time, it would be beneficial to understand some more common concepts and experiences that are familiar to most, such as human perception. Have you ever been in a situation where you or another person or many others spent a day together? Ridiculous question, right? Of course, we have all experienced that. But let's take it a step further. During that day spent together, have you ever felt like time flew by, while perhaps another may have felt like time was dragging by? How can that possibly be? You both were in the same vicinity of each other, and maybe sharing the same activities or maybe not. You both existed in the same reference of time, and yet you each experienced it as very different from each other. That is what we refer to as human perception. But whose perception is the correct one? Whose perception can be relied upon as substantial evidence of how time occurred in that precise reference of calculated numbers that represented the experience that both participated in? The fact is that each of your own perceptions were absolutely correct. That may not make sense to you at this moment, but it will. Perception is a funny and fickle thing. You can have a group of people watch a crime take place, and each one of them will have their own perception of what occurred, even down to what color clothing someone was wearing, what they looked like, what they did, and in what order of sequence of events developed. Eventually, after gathering all the stories, you were then able to piece the puzzle together and come to a reasonable explanation of what actually happened. What makes perception so fluid and unpredictable? Why does human perception differ so vastly between people? Perhaps it's because perception is based upon every single experience you have ever had up until this very moment. And although we claim we are not biased, we actually can't help but to be biased in its most fundamental form, because bias is based upon perception. As long as your brain is considered humanly conscious, you cannot escape perception. It's an automatic response mechanism to stimuli. Regardless if you claim to be just the observer, your brain is still formulating a perception of what you are observing, even if only on a subconscious level, with or without your permission. It's another one of those two sides of the same coin thing. Now, let's take another step deeper into the understanding of perception. But before we do that, make a quick mental note to keep this one thing in mind. Everything is connected. And that concludes this video of the Chapter 7, Time. I'm sending you all lots of love, lots of light, and lots of activation energy.